Thank you, Sumit. I guess we are very excited to be associated with Voyage. I think this is the new normal, and I'm very thankful and grateful to the entire Builder team for really partnering with us. I have an 8-year-old son, and Voyage is 7 years old, and we've been partnering with Voyage from last 7 years. So it's like seeing a baby grow. We've had some of the biggest ground events, and now this I've been told is the biggest webinar in the Indian financial sector. Our guest today is Mr. Bhansali. While markets always admire him for his market intellect and his view on economy and view on different industries, in the last 20 years, I've interacted with Mr. Bhansali. I always admired him as a human being. As a cub reporter, which is about 20 years ago, he gave me one simple mantra: never aim for success, always aim for excellence. That's a mantra which I have tried to imbibe, at least in my career. He's one person whose word is his bond. And every time I interact with him, I not only look forward to some engaging conversation in markets, I also look forward to some engaging conversations in life and how to define the purpose of life. So we are very excited to have Mr. Vallabh Bhansali on this forum. Mr. Bhansali, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. And it's the first time for me to be on Voyage, and I'm very delighted to be so.
It's a first time for a lot of us, Mr. Bhansali, where 4 factors have come together: medical crisis, unprecedented slowdown in economy, lot of policy action by central bankers, and a crash in crude. Now, world has never seen these 4 factors come together. What is your view of the world, and what is the new normal for us?
While we are seeing these negatives, there are some positives also that have come about, and we must note them also. But I agree with you that while in the financial sector, some kind of black swan event was expected, and I'm saying this with all consciousness because you saw master investors like Mr. Warren Buffett, Seth Klarman, Howard Marks, all sitting on piles of cash. Mr. Klarman at some point of time had 42% cash in their portfolio, which means they knew something will go wrong. They didn't know, of course, that something like coronavirus will happen. Having said that, I also see that the world has responded to this in an unprecedented manner. While we all were rather critical and apprehensive about China's lockdowns, how world except Sweden or 1 or 2 other countries have adopted lockdowns. It's a new experience and it's a new social norm, which prepares us for living with coronavirus in future. Similarly, the kind of fiscal stimuli that have come about from the countries around the world, and now we are joining the same bandwagon, which is also very new things. The third good thing I'm seeing is that the way humanity has responded in many, many countries, particularly in India, the amount of humanitarian effort that has got rolled out is quite amazing. And the last thing is that, amongst the many revolutions that Dr. Yuval Harari talked about, one very important one was on the medical and the pharma front. I think some of the acceleration that has taken place in those fields are also very positive. So I think there's no doubt about the huge amount of negatives that you talked about, but there have also been positives. One negative that you didn't talk about, and which is, the history is full of power struggles when an entrenched power is challenged by an emerging power. It happened in the First World War, it happened in the Second World War, and the same thing was happening that as America felt threatened by China, whatever be the antecedent to that. But this has built up into a very, very big situation now. So I think that is also a part of big worry. So I would like to add one more thing there.
Yes,
as I said, that something this was waiting to happen, and people need to understand what was that. Why people were expecting something like this to happen is that the world already had very low immunity now, because that word is popular. I'm using that expression. That large parts of the world were already on steroids, and therefore the worry is now steroids are being added. Massive doses are being added to these steroids. Yes, carry on, Nirukunj.
No, Mr. Bhansali, you refer to the positives, and that's what investors always do. You always said that try to find good news in a stockpile of bad news. Never let a crisis go for a waste. If indeed this is a crisis, as a seasoned investor, where are you picking your spots in terms of funding opportunity? I want to remind and just take the clock back, Mr. Bhansali. As a firm, as an individual, when Infosys went public, the IPO did not do well, but as a house, you backed it because you were able to convert that crisis into an opportunity. What is your view on converting crisis into opportunity?
I think clearly when liquidation happens in the markets, a lot of good names get beaten up. So let me also, give another perspective to the Infosys saga, and it is very important. What happened at the time of Infosys? It was very important to see the man behind the business. He was a unique person. I had done hundreds of IPOs by then, but Mr. Narayan Murthy and his team, they brought very different values to the market and to the world. And same thing applies now also. Whatever be the business, if you see a businessman like them being punished in whatever sector, go and to look into that. So what other thing one would look at is abiding businesses. That means what we call business with a long tail. So if you see an abiding business and a top class value leader, say someone like Deepak Parekh, Aditya Puri, and now our own Radhakishan Damani, they represent those kinds of promoters. And if their stocks are getting beaten up, that's the place to go to. And they do get beaten up when liquidation happens across the board. So I think look there.
In the month of March, everything fell apart. In the month of April, everything came together. In last 6 or 7 weeks, I have used on ET Now words like panic and FOMO. I've never used these two words in tandem with each other, where I've used panic and fear on one side and FOMO and euphoria on one side. Why markets are behaving in such a synchronizing manner?
We have come out of a long bull market, though we had a correction, massive correction in 2001, 2008. We still came back. As I said, the world was never on steroids of the kind that it is on today. In 2008, we were not on steroids. The Feds and all were not trying to support the market already when the market crashed. This time, there is a big situation, as I said, that the world powers clashing is one. We're dealing with the medical situation, which we do not know how it will play out. People thought it'll, go out in a V manner. Now it's a W manner and it's a long W manner. So we do not know. So the moment you see bad news, people panic. Moment they see, vaccine will happen, this will happen, big stimulus from America, UK, etc., people get excited. It is the hangover of the bull market that brings them into that FOMO very quickly. I think people have to wake up and become very stable, that we deal with a very terrible cocktail at this point of time. And while you must back equities, there's no just question about it, you must back good promoters because they are the most abiding entities in the world history. So you must back them, but you have to not get the FOMO will be a danger, definitely.
With each crisis, Mr. Bhansali, we see new leadership emerges in the market. When the 2000 dot-com bubble busted, money moved to infrastructure. Post that, it moved to consumer stocks. Then NBFCs made a comeback. How do you think the wheels of the economy now will readjust, and where do you think the new opportunities in terms of entrepreneurship and in terms of profit pools will emerge?
I think some form of technology, telecom definitely dominate. And you're seeing that even in these terrible markets, the telecom stocks and technology stocks have held up well. I think their importance is only going to grow. As we work from home, as the need for communication grows. As you said, the voyage is a different form now. And the reliability of this is going to grow many, many times. So many forms, from IoT to 5G to virtual reality to, this connected world. Safety, you're going to see automated pharmaceutical health. You're going to see very soon automated, COVID testing labs come out because, the frontline warriors cannot go on the way they're doing. So you're going to see, automated robots taking care of, patients and so on. So on the whole technology side, a huge amount of opportunity is going to come. The second is, a new social norm of how the new entertainment will come. Today, the IPL cannot have 30,000 people in a stadium. So how is this going to change? So is betting going to come into it? Is virtual reality going to come into it? Is gaming going to come into it? So the way we amuse ourselves, the way we educate ourselves, the way we work, everything is changing. So therefore, all those who are at cutting edge in these businesses, so they establish, for example, the physical retail is changing big time to online retail. NASSCOM has said that large part of their workers they see in another 3-4 years working from home. Now, home has to be redefined. The present homes are not equipped to deal with the mother or the wife taking their husband sitting there 24 hours. It is a huge social shock. or children, working, taking education from home. So all this is not going to continue. So I remain hopeful that by and large, the way we were consuming or what we were consuming is going to continue. We will love to go out. We require our hormones of, embracing people, being with people. That is not changing, definitely. But the way we do it, that will definitely change. And that is a huge scope for technology companies, primarily, that I can see.
Mr. Bhansali, the way we communicate now has changed. Information is freely available. When you were investing earlier, or when you started investing career, information was impossible to find on a regular basis. To get a balance sheet of a good company, you really had to stand outside the lines to get a balance sheet. Given that technology has now made information freely available, do you think investors now are much more sophisticated or intelligent?
See, the gap between the smartest guy and the average guy, that remains a constant. So whenever information becomes ubiquitous, analysis and risk-taking becomes more sophisticated. So I think that will always remain the same. For example, non-stock investors to stock investors is one change. Within stock investors, informed and more informed stock investors will take place. So I don't see that change. I think the value of an alpha investor, that will always remain. Question arises, are we going to see the decline of popularity of stocks? Are we going to see the money being redefined? I think some of those questions are definitely open. I think stock investing, because you're investing in risk-taking. Risk-taking is the one that gives you huge rewards. I think that will remain. Can we have a long period of the kind that we had, between 1930 and 52 in the US or in India, after the forward markets were banned in 56, until I came into the market 84? Stock investing was not a popular business. Stock broking was not a popular business for a long period, like 30 years, or even in 75 when dividend freeze came. From 75 to 85 was a terrible period. Stock market didn't open for 3 months. So some of those things, are going to be tested. And it all depends upon the nature of the disease. If this disease is beatable, which I hope, and I'm confident that, we'll beat this disease with cures and vaccines, etc., in the next 6 months. If that somehow does not happen, and that goes on for longer, the human spirit is going to feel very different, and the world can be a very different place.
Now, we have an audience where we have financial distributors and financial expertise who are also advising to their clients. And clients, Mr. Bhansali, are asking tough questions. And the simple question which they are asking is that in the last 10 years, equities, which is Nifty, and gold has given a similar return. With Nifty, I took pain, I took volatility, and with gold, I took nothing. And if my returns in 10 years are same, is equity investing worth it?
So as I said, that you have to back the businessman. I think, while the index as such may have given the same return as gold, individual stocks have outperformed. And so this is going to be the challenge. As more and more people invest in stock, the alpha is going to become more and more difficult. I see alpha becoming even more difficult in a very uncertain world. As to, because gold has, in this period, has given the same return as equities, and therefore gold is a better investment for all time to come, answer is clearly no. The gold has had a run, the gold is under-owned, and therefore gold may have potential. So I would say definitely something I haven't said in my career, that you should have definitely some amount of money in gold, because the times are so uncertain. But having said that, if you can invest in alpha equities, I would still, my money is going to be in gold. People will have to hold larger amount of cash than they did in the past. I think FM is already started speaking, so the minds are distracted there.
I wanted to take the conversation forward from where we left. And you were mentioning about the opportunity. You were mentioning that how each time we've seen these crises, new leaders, new entrepreneurs, and survival of the fittest is the key mantra. So just would request you to take that thought forward.
So basically, we must recognize that the world wants to get on, life wants to get on, life wants to find new ideas. These are hormonal needs of people. So as long as you don't have a suppressive environment in which, enterprise is suppressed, which is not the case. And as in between finance minister was speaking, we have seen great indication that business is being supported in an unimaginable, unexpected, great level. Given that fact, though we have heard only MSME so far, but we are seeing that this is very liberal. This is of various kinds. So just as we saw the poor support, now we are seeing an MSME support.
from definition change to this. So given that environment, enterprise will come back. So just as, people found ways to dance and, joke about Corona, people will find ways to, come out of this. It has always happened. And therefore, look for leaders with morality. So clearly, as I mentioned, the category of promoters, that becomes more important. Good thing is I have seen, since Mr. Narayan Murthy's day, 1,000 ships were launched. You found Sanjeev Bikhchandani and Harsh Mariwala and people like that, who created great companies with governance. They became the role models for others. Radhakishan Damani came, and even in his difficult times, you see that his stock is holding up and so on. And Radhakishanji himself has become a role model for others. So if you do some good amount of work, you will find that there are a lot of promoters who you can back. It's very important in these times to look at the good management, and a management not only with capability, but with character. So I think that is the defining thing. What sectors will emerge? Of course, you're seeing pharma, you're seeing technology, etc. But it is hard to say at this point of time, as I said, that how the disease plays out will decide a lot of things. You're seeing Ayurvedic companies, you're going to see homeopathic companies, lifestyle companies. A lot of new ideas will come to the market.
Mr. Bhansali, before the COVID crisis, now historians and Mr. Bhansali, they use terminology like BC and AD to describe human history. Right. As market commentators, if may use the word pre-COVID and post-COVID. In the pre-COVID world, big companies were getting bigger. Indian markets were extremely polarized. A Bajaj Finance and HDFC Bank, maybe a Reliance to some degree, and globally it was all about FANG stocks. Given that in this crisis, the big companies will survive, do you think the polarization nature of the market will only get more skewed?
See, this is human nature. That, what succeeds, nothing succeed becomes bigger and bigger success. So, technology companies became, in the past, we had IBM, Exxon, General Motors, all of them, they were the big ruling daddies. So whatever is going well, the world wants to get on a bandwagon. HDFC Bank, was a certain price, Kotak Bank was a certain price, but when the fancy goes out, people start looking at Bharti Airtel and so on and so forth. So I don't think we should get distracted by that statistical profile. Clearly, the world will want to back the winner. As it is, nothing succeeds like success. So that is not our point. Our point should be, what is a good guy to back? Is there a long trail? And most importantly, is there a margin of safety? So I think three things are going to be more important in this phase of investment over the next 12 to 18 months than ever before. Because times are very uncertain, you need a good guy who will not take undue risk with your money.
I want to draw attention to financials, and financials, which is a combination of private banks and also insurance and NBFCs, have a very high weightage in the index. It is the heart of the market. Given that right now the economy will become risk averse, NPA cycles will come back. What is the future of good, well-run banks also, which otherwise would have not had problems in the loan book, but now because of circumstances, they could really feel the heat?
So I think I haven't seen the full package, but if this full, the package is any indication, if you start providing liquidity support to these companies, a lot of them will survive. And therefore the NPA cycle, which was, imminently going to get extended even further, we have had that NPA cycle go for a very long time. I think that may get stalled. We have to see the rest of the package. If this country opens up for business, then maybe that NPA cycle would have come to an end, or, in a more visible end. Once that happens, some of these stocks will become more interesting. Nikunj, we must also recognize that these are the stocks that were punished most badly. I mean, they lost 50% of their value, though they were, blue chips for a long time. I mean, Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, and, number of those stocks. Bajaj Finance available at a price that was unimaginable. So I think they also have taken a lot of beating. So some of it will come back. And question is that whether it is liquidity support only, or it is enterprise support, as we talked earlier. If enterprise support comes back, that entrepreneur is really the guy to go to in this country, I think things may change. It's too early, but possibility exists.
Now, IMF is calling it the biggest economic crisis since the Great Depression. Ray Dalio has openly said that the world reminds him of 1935. Looking at the social changes, the fact that trade changes could happen at a global level also in terms of globalization, What does the period remind you of, and where are we headed in terms of global trade and other political and so-called geopolitical challenges?
I think this has affected the world very differently. The whole world is not affected. So companies and economies and countries that were more local in their nature, they have not been as badly affected because they didn't have too many tourists, so they were not depending on tourism income, or they didn't have a large external sector. And if the disease impact is not very high in a country, they will be affected differently. And I would say that globally, of course, you're seeing challenges, and some of the earlier pessimistic comments I made apply a lot more to the world than to India. India has a real chance of converting this black swan into a gray swan. And there were a lot of mitigating factors which we should not forget, like the forex reserves or the low oil price, that we are a large local economy. We have a lot of self-dependency, whether it is food, pharma, we have a demographic profile, and we had a very good external debt profile. Not only we had forex reserves, but only 3.5% external debt, which is quite amazing. And even the aggregate debt profile of the country is quite within manageable limits. So we were not in steroids. Now that the world is suffering, and we have a chance to become a new supply chain and create this, our world may not change as dramatically as, say, a Mediterranean country which was depending on tourism alone, and they didn't have other strong economic factors. They may get affected for a long time. And indeed, the history of pandemics right from 5,000 years ago also show that big pandemics change the world history. So here also the China-America tussle, how the Asian age has come suddenly, how India can become more friendly to China and change the world geopolitics completely. I do not know whether this will happen. But if India and China combine, for example, they say, okay, whatever happened, here, both of us together, if we become a region, let us define OBOR differently. Say China and India come together and they say, okay, now let's stop supporting Pakistan. So Pakistan can grow, India can grow, you can grow. It's a game changing. You never know, in politics, anything is possible. So Asia, India has a lot of, we can definitely convert this black swan into a gray swan and maybe even a white swan.
Do you worry about the fabric of the Indian, Indians in terms of productivity and skills? The farm income is low, our per capita income has not gone higher. A lot of graduates have managed to find a chance to work from home, but a lot of non-graduates and migrant labor challenges are there. So do you think this crisis also will expose a lot of unskilled part of the economy?
I think the fact that we have low employment opportunity, or low, what we call well-paying employment opportunity. We have a lot of employment opportunity which are very, very low-paying jobs. So I think that is a structural weakness. And that weakness has been because our laws are not integrated. We don't even administer our country to get a defined outcome. It's all very fragmented between state and the center, between judiciary and the legislature, and so on. I think the vision that the Prime Minister has talked about, it is too early to say that this is what will play out. But I think what the work that Aadhaar, etc., JAM has done, people behind JAM are doing, what work this promises, I would say that I do not think that this is guaranteed pessimism that this cannot be reformed. Say, for example, in Maharashtra, 30 years back, Maharashtrian labor profile was very different. But Maharashtra had relatively better governments. The Maharashtrian person is not migrating anymore. So also, so some of these states have stopped sending out migrants. So, we know Bihar, Orissa, these are some of the states. They are still migrating. UP, the migration has stopped, has reduced quite a lot. So Punjab was migrating, Sardars used to go out around the world, but Punjab became, an entry point for all kinds of migrants. So it definitely can be changed, and it takes only determined leadership, whether it was Pratap Singh Kairo, whether it was, Vasantrao Naik and others in Maharashtra, Narendra Modi in Gujarat. So I believe in leadership. It is not the nature of our people that defines our country. It will be the nature of leadership that will define our country's future.
There's a lot of debate on whether work from home should be allowed or not. We had the management of TCS on ET now 2 days ago, and we are looking at moving 75% of our employees to work from home. Similar other global companies are saying the same. What could be the consequences of this on productivity and creativity, and also on real estate prices permanently?
So it is. It's a very big thing. Something that has not happened in the history of mankind. So as I said, that home is a certain social profile. Converting home life and work life is a very, very different thing. Also, the productivity gains, if are any, or productivity loss, if any, from work from home, is still early days to see. So unless productivity is proven to be high from this, so obviously you have commuting time saved, you have cost saved, etc., etc. But unless those productivity gains, if any, are shared equally between employees and the customer and the employer, so I think it is not as easy as is projected. Maybe IT can do this, but there are a lot of other sectors. IT is only a small part of the total employment profile. So I am still cautiously watching this space. I do not think that the world has moved big time to work from home. Finance and IT maybe can, but a lot of other sectors cannot. Services clearly cannot. A hair salon cannot work from home.
Mr. Bhansali, I've had the pleasure of interacting and also learning from you. I've learned a lot of things about what is right and what is wrong in life. But if you have to share your life journey with the audience here and take the clock back to 1984, and if you have to write your experiences in 2020 to Vallabh Bhansali of 1984, how will the letter start and how will the letter end?
I think you mentioned one of them, which was excellence. The second one is, truth, accepting. So truth in all its forms. So for example, COVID makes your business small. Can you accept it gracefully? Can you still remain positive? And just see that, okay, nature has created every entity, whether it is commercial, social, or personal. It is shaped by nature's forces. To accept those forces and then see, okay, what is the nature asking me to do? To accept that and excel at it. And of course, be useful to, people around you. So if you're honest to your customer, you're excellent in what you do, you are truthful. These three farule at all points of time is going to help you come. I think if I look back at my life, I think those three were the defining guidelines for me, that I got out of my accounting practice. I became a different person even before that because I discovered the power of truth. And then I wanted to do something that was, appealing to my heart. So I got out of my accounting practice to come into a stock market where it was not popular. And then, the fortuitous events kept happening and kept meeting good people. And we had great influence on each other throughout that journey. And since retirement, my life has been even more exciting than my working life. I can't tell you how exciting it is trying to be useful and trying to get better in my spiritual path.
I know you're wearing a lot of hats now, and what you're calling as retired life, I guess it is the way you're enjoying your new life now. So we want to understand from Vallabh Bhansali that how does his day start and how does his day end?
Well, I spend a lot of time meditating at different parts of the day. A long session in the morning, as long as I can have it, 1 hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And then I have a lot of NGO activity. I'm associated with one of the greatest NGOs in this country called Bharatiya Jain Sangatana. I've got a very deep involvement there in various forms. I created an NGO which is recognizing that we created Swaraj, but we did not create a Suraj. Good rule, self-rule has not become good rule necessarily for us. And there's a whole big definition for the world that how democracy 2.0 needs to come in. That cannot come in unless citizens recognize that collective, for example, a good street is a collective right. A good street cannot become your collective right. So we have good, clean homes, but we have bad streets. If you want the streets to be good, it's a collective right and a collective duty. So it's a whole big phenomenon. Similarly, I have a Satya Vigyan Foundation. I'm involved with the Flame University. So there are, and of course, my Vipassana movement. I have a foundation called Satya Vigyan Foundation, which is doing some seminal work about how spiritual path and day-to-day life have to be lived on the basis of truth with practical aspects. So, well, I have 24 hours as too short a time for me.
How has meditation and the practice of Vipassana changed you? Is it helping you also understand life, market, everything else?
Of course, because Vipassana means to see things as they are. So this great experiences with truth became even more accentuated when I discovered the path of Vipassana. Say, for example, we see ourselves as one monolithic entity, but actually we are changing all the time. Our mind is changing, our body is changing. And when you recognize that, oh, I am not the same person, the next moment I've changed, and to live with that change in a stable manner is what the whole life actually forces you to. So, and I'm doing a lot of work to promote this understanding of life as it is. So it's been extremely helpful. It's been helpful to most Vipassana meditators, from Dr. Yuval Harari to Jack Dorsey of Twitter, and an endless number of people.
Well, Mr. Bhansali, once again, very kind of you. Thank you for joining us once again, and thank you for your words of wisdom, and thank you for sharing and pouring in your experiences of life as to what really has been the differentiating factors.
No, it's due to you, Nikunj, and of course to my association with the Bidla family for a long time. I wish you all the best. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.